Hi there, and welcome to Hyundai Power Products. My name's Adrian, and today we're going to look at some simple maintenance on your HY2000Si inverter generator from Hyundai. So in this episode we're going to be draining the oil and fuel from your generator. Now there are several reasons why you may want to do this. The most common is stale fuel. If you've left the fuel in your generator for a number of weeks or months, there's a good chance the fuel will be stale and your generator won't start. So we'll go on that scenario first and show you how to drain the fuel from your generator. Obviously I have special tools for doing this, but I'm taking it that you haven't got these tools, so I'll show you the roadside way of doing it, as it were. So I've removed the fuel cap and the filter unit that's in the filler neck. So obviously you would need a suitable container, perhaps some assistance to do this. You can put the generator on the edge of a table or a bench or anything that you've got suitable and simply pour out the contents of the tank. Now we want to do this fairly quickly into a container because the engine oil is still in the machine. We're just concerned with removing the fuel. So you could pick it up, pour it into a container. Obviously do this outdoors because even though the fuel is stale, it could still be very volatile indeed. But that's a simple pour out from the fuel tank first. As I'm on my own for this, I do have a simple primer bulb with some pipe, and I can extract the majority of the fuel out of the fuel tank. This is actually fresh fuel, but you would be doing this with stale fuel. And you can tell stale fuel, it smells sweet. It doesn't smell like normal petrol. It hasn't got that sort of fume smell. It's got a sweet acetone sort of smell on stale fuel. And that's a surefire way to tell that your fuel is stale, other than the fact that your generator won't start. If you were storing your machine for the winter or for long periods where you're not going to be using it, I also recommend that you drain the fuel completely. Okay, so we've got the majority of the fuel out of the fuel tank. So to drain the fuel from the carburetor, we need to remove the plastic side cover. We'll undo the top two screws. They're both undone, and we'll simply pop the poppers, remove the side access door, and we'll look at how we're going to drain the carburetor. I'll bring you in a bit closer. So to drain the carburetor, we need to undo this screw here, and you'll see that it has a plastic pipe which runs down from the carburetor and out through the bottom of the generator here. So when we undo the screw, the residual fuel, we've still got the fuel tap switched on, or the on-off switch switched on. Just make sure we've done that. So any remaining fuel in the tank can enter the carburetor, and we're going to be completely draining the system. So I'm going to use a suitable jug underneath the end of the pipe to catch the fuel as it runs out, and I'll undo the screw. Just a few turns is fine, and fuel is now running out from the fuel tank through the carburetor into my jug. Now if you find that the generator is too heavy for you to lift up to pour fuel out of the tank, you can drain the tank entirely using this method. And it's certainly a lot easier if you're on your own and you haven't got a fuel extractor as I had. Even though, as you can see, it will take some time. So we're going to leave that for a few minutes to completely drain. And once it's completely drained, we're going to do the screw back up again. So there we are, it's completely drained now, and I'll do the screw back up. So now that we've drained all the fuel completely out of the system, we can replace the side cover and do up the two screws. Now, because you've had stale fuel in your machine, there is a possibility that the spark plug may have become fouled. So that's fuel on the spark plug that wouldn't ignite, and you're going to have a wet spark plug. So we're going to move on to taking the spark plug out and drying it off just to make sure that it's still in good condition and hasn't become fouled. So to access the spark plug, first we're going to remove this cover here. Again, anti-clockwise with the screw, loosen it off and pull it out in this direction, and that gives you access down into the spark plug cap. I'll bring you in on that. So looking down through the top, the spark plug cap is here, and we just need to gently hold onto the spark plug cap and give it a pull and remove the spark plug cap from the spark plug. So as you can see, the spark plug down in the bottom of the hole. We'll use the spark plug spanner that came with the unit. Just avoiding the spark plug cap, I'll tuck it out of the way. We'll fit the spark plug spanner down over the spark plug, and using the lever, I'll undo the spark plug. Now I'm going to take this spark plug out completely using the spanner. There we are, and the spark plug will come out with the spanner. So the spark plug in this unit is an E6 RTC spark plug, and these are readily available from our parts department. Alternatively, if it isn't too badly fouled, you can wipe it over with some blue roll or some kitchen towel to dry off any residual fuel from around it. Perhaps give it a blowout with an airline, and it can be brushed with a soft wire brush, a brass bristled wire brush, and that will clean off any residue on the spark plug. So whether you're replacing the spark plug or you've cleaned the spark plug, we now can refit the spark plug back into the engine. So the spark plug spanner does have a plug retainer, a rubber bush inside it, which will hold the spark plug. So either with your new spark plug or freshly cleaned spark plug, we can put it in the spark plug retainer. Just pull the spark plug cap out of the way. I'm going to place it or offer it up in position, and I'm just going to use my fingers to try and start it. Normally I'd always recommend to screw in the spark plug just using your fingers, not with the spanner, to avoid cross threading, but in this instance you wouldn't be able to get your fingers down in the hole. So we'll get it started, and I want to make sure that it screws in 99% of the way using just the spanner. So now that we're completely down, I'll just tighten the spark plug off using the little lever and remove the spanner. So again, you can just put the spark plug cap back into place, lining it up, and push it down firmly into place. So that's the spark plug cleaned or changed. So final little bit of housekeeping: replace the cover, do up the screw, and that's the stale fuel completely removed and the spark plug cleaned, ready to accept fresh fuel. Of course, the other side of the story to removing stale fuel is that you're removing fresh fuel to avoid it going stale in the machine. So of course you can use exactly the same methods for draining the fuel from the machine, ready for storage for long periods. So we're going to move on to changing the oil in your generator, whether that be for routine servicing, long-term storage or transport. Before removing the oil, it's probably best to run the generator for perhaps 10 minutes with no load applied to warm up the engine and to make the oil more viscous. This will help you get more of the engine oil out of the engine, and it will pour out a lot quicker. If this isn't possible, don't worry, you can pour it out with the engine cold. It'll just take longer to come out and you won't get quite as much of the old oil out of the engine. So I'm going to use the worst case scenario here. As you saw, I only ran it for a few minutes earlier, so the oil will not be that hot and the engine still feels pretty cold. Okay, so the first thing to do is to know that we're going to tip the engine oil out of the engine through the filler hole. So a suitable container again over the edge of a bench, and you would pour it. It will run out into this lip and run out over the generator. Probably have some paper towel at hand when doing this. In my case, I'm going to tip it back, remove the filler plug, and as it happens, my jug is a nice fit in the end of the filler hole. I'll push it into place and I'll simply pour out the engine oil into a jug. and as you can see I do get a little bit of spillage. So having removed all the engine oil, I can simply do a little clean up around the area just to remove any spillage. And now that all the oil is drained, I can replace the filler plug. Okay, so on this particular generator, all the fuel is drained, the spark plug's been cleaned, and the engine oil has been removed, ready for long-term storage. When I come to reuse it again, I need to remember to put engine oil back in the engine, so I will affix a label onto the handle on the top here that just says warning, engine oil removed for storage. So there we are, that's how to remove the fuel, whether it be fresh or stale, and the engine oil from your HY2000Si inverter generator. Well, I do hope you found this demonstration useful. For more information on this or any of our other products, visit www.hyundaipowerproducts.co.uk. I've been Adrian, and thank you for watching.